We all know that conversation and small talk is important. These skills need to be trained so that when you're at a networking event, when you're getting introduced for a job interview, when you're at some type of event like Vid Summit or Trafficking Conversion Conference, and your next big opportunity is right there, you can build that rapport and relationship with that person and be seen as likable and make a connection that lasts and has an impact. However, what I've learned from studying a lot of conversation tips online is that the great majority of the conversation tips only work and apply for this first category here, one versus one conversation. When you're just talking to one person, it works, but then when you try and apply that, as I have in real life many times, to conversations when you're talking to more than one person, two people or more, so that there's a grand total of 3 people to 7 people in the conversation, it's a completely different dynamic and you can't apply the same things. You see, what I call group conversation functions dramatically differently, especially depending on how extroverted these people are, how free-willed they are, and how many they are. The more extroverted and the more people there are, the subject of a conversation will move faster than it will in an improv workshop. It can literally bounce from talking about KFC to wings to that one time you met a chicken in Mexico to Mexican fried rice to how Mexicans across the border suck to politics to the wall to all sorts of things within a very short amount of time, sometimes in a matter of under a minute. So what this means is that you can't treat these conversations the same. So here's 3 tips you can use in group conversation to change the dynamic. 1, for group conversation, you have to be more freewheeling and free thinking. You might have a thought or an idea that would be relevant and contribute, but within a matter of 15 to 30 seconds, the subject has gone way off course and what you held on to isn't relevant anymore. So you either spit it out immediately, which sometimes you shouldn't or can't do because people are talking really fast and you want to hear them speak. And the second thing is sometimes you have to speak over them. As an introvert or a shy person, that's very tough to do, but sometimes you will not get a word in otherwise. And you'll find yourself completely shifted out of the conversation. Just standing there and listening is not enough because sometimes you realize you didn't even have to be there for the last 10 minutes and it wouldn't have mattered. So you effectively become invisible, which is not a good thing. And then the third tip I have for you is break it off. So this will naturally happen. Anything that's over 7 people or probably even 5 or 6 people will naturally break off in a matter of 5 to 15 minutes into groups of 3 or less people. And this usually happens just because it's much easier for men and women to talk in smaller groups than it is to try and win over a whole bunch of people, because that ends up turning into a speech, not a conversation, because you're talking to large amounts of people at once. So you'll notice this in large groups. They'll break off into lots of small conversations, but it's oftentimes not one-to-one. It's still, you're still talking to 2 or 3 other people at once or contributing. And so the last tip is engage. Ask one person questions and use eye contact to keep related with the other. If you don't, and you just stick to talking to this one person, you might be pulled out of the conversation yourself by the other person, or you will isolate that person and they'll feel left out, or they'll feel like you're excluding them and they'll pull you out naturally, consciously or unconsciously. So keep these tips in mind and hopefully you'll have better group conversations, which happens all the time in real life and is sometimes more frequent than one-on-one conversations. I excel much more at 1 versus 1. So this is an area that is yet to be talked about, and there's so much difference in it. So hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.